Hey, welcome to the How to Podcast series. My name is Dave, and I am the host of this podcast and many others. And we're wrapping up our little mini-series on Guest to Great, maximizing your podcast experience. Happy to have you here. Thank you for pressing play. Let's dive in. So in the last few episodes, we have been talking about your guesting experience and your hosting experience. So whether you're coming to podcast as a guest for the first time, or you want to level up your experience and your time on a podcast as a guest, or you're a podcast host and you want to be better at communicating with your guests and getting a better interview, the last 3 episodes, including this one, have all been focused on making this work for both podcaster and guest. So I hope you're finding great value in this, and I hope that you come back and review this again in the future. And as a podcaster, this group of 3 episodes is a great little introduction for you to give to your future guest to help them to onboard into your podcast so they feel prepared. They feel ready to come and give a great interview for the audience and promote the thing they're there to talk about. And I hope this becomes a great resource for you as a podcaster and for you as a guest. I hope that you find value in this, and this makes you feel a little more confident as you arrive to talk on a podcast for the first time, or as you get better as a guest on podcasts. Each of these 3 episodes, we've been featuring a website that really helps guests connect to hosts and hosts to connect with guests. It's a great way to have all of the resources of a great PR agency to help you without really the expensive cost. It's called PodMatch. I love PodMatch. There's a link in the show notes. If you're interested and you'd like to try PodMatch, use our link and we'll make a little bit of money for you using our link, but it'll help you to easily connect and get onto PodMatch and give it a try. I'm on there, and if you want me as a guest on your show, please use my link, and I'd love to come and be a guest on your show, and I'd like to have you on my show. So keep that in mind. And thank you for checking out the link for PodMatch, a great service connecting podcasters and guests. They've got great tools, an amazing team. And I've been using it for a long time. Really love it. And I would strongly suggest you take a look at PodMatch, whether you're a host of a show looking for guests or you're a guest looking for podcasts. Go try PodMatch. Link in the show notes. Let's jump into our content today. So our first episode in this little 3-part mini-series was focused on the guests. Focus on you as you reach out to be a guest on shows. Whether you are brand new to podcasting, you're talking about your book, your coaching course, something that you want to get on and promote through podcasting as a guest, that whole episode is designed specifically for you. If you haven't heard it yet, go back and take a listen. Go back a couple episodes and you'll see part of this 3-part mini-series around Guest to Great. That's completely designed for you. And if you're a podcaster and you have your own show, I would really encourage you to also be a guest on podcast. It's a great way for you to reach more of a larger audience and get in front of other people who listen to podcasts. And that'll really help you grow your show. Be a guest, whether you're the host of a show or a guest looking to be on a podcast. That first episode is designed specifically for you. The second episode in our little mini-series is more geared towards podcast hosts and goes a little deeper into how we can prepare for our guests and show up and give them the best opportunity to be seen and heard, and for us to build community around our guests. And some of the key things that we need to consider as we prepare for our guests to come on our show, what we can do with them while they're with us, and maybe some thoughts around what we can do after when our guest leaves and we continue on, how we can keep that relationship alive in the long term. So as a podcast host, I would really strongly recommend you go back 1 episode and listen to the whole episode featuring you, focused on you as a host, and even as a guest. You might not be the host of a podcast. If you want some inside knowledge about how you should be treated on a podcast, go listen to when I talk to the podcast hosts. Pick up on a few things. If you're not having that experience, when you go on a show, send them the link to this episode, the one previous to this one, focused on podcast hosts. And let's help all our podcasters be a little bit better with our guests. you and I can do this together. We can really help a lot of people. Podcast guesting isn't just about showing up and sharing your story. It's an opportunity to build your personal brand, expand your network, and create lasting value for both you and the host of the podcast. Whether you're the podcaster or the guest, maximizing the impact of each interview is a key to long-term growth. Podcasting is great. Your episode lives out there for people to pick up on years and years from now. And it just works for you quietly in the background, giving great value to your listeners and to the people that are going to hear your conversation. While you sleep, people are listening to your conversation. Such a great way to reach and grow your community. We need to lay the foundation right off the bat. Before the interview, for the guests that are listening, make sure that you clarify your message. Know your core story, your expertise, and the key points that you want to share. Coming in with no agenda and just hoping for the best doesn't always give the best results for you, your time, and the listener. Make sure that you come with a clear message. You know exactly what you want to talk about, and skip being general. Be specific. Make sure your message is heard. Make sure you understand the audience. If the host doesn't tell you who the audience is, then please ask, who are we talking to? Who listens to the show? Tell me about the age of your audience. Tell me a little bit about who you're focused on. Who is the target? Who am I talking to? And adjust the way you speak to that audience so that you have the best impact possible. Research the podcast listeners and tailor your content to their interests and their needs. Prepare your bio and your links. PodMatch gives you a way to set that up right on your website, right on PodMatch, so that people can grab it right there. They don't need to ask you to send it to them. Your photo's there, your bio is there, all of your links are there. Super easy. So check out PodMatch for that. And if you want to, the link's in the show notes. I'd love for you to check it out. But have a concise bio, headshot, and relevant links ready for your host so they don't have to ask. So often, as a podcaster, I'm chasing my guests for all of the assets that I need. And if I'm working through a PR agency, they work with multiple people and it takes time. And I need to know. And one thing I would say when you talk about your links, instead of giving me 17 different places to find you, put all that information on your website and give me one link to a website that has your Instagram, your social media, everything all in one place, because people aren't going to remember 17 links. They're going to remember one. So put everything on your website and then just give me your website link. If you don't have a website, you probably should if you're going to be a guest on the show. So have one place to send people, not 17. Make sure you provide those links to your host through email. Volunteer it if you're not asked, but give that information so your host has what they need to produce your episode. And give it to them early. Don't wait. And check your tech. Check that you have a microphone. If you're going to be a frequent guest on podcasts, I would recommend that you get a microphone. And if you're going to be recording, hopefully on a laptop or a computer, doing this on your phone may or may not be the best results for you as the guest. I had somebody come on my show. I told them up front, listen, I can't really hear you well. It's really crackly. It's not great. And they pushed me. They said, let's just go. I've been recording like this forever. It's fine. And when they got the final copy back of their episode with all of the tricks and technology I have at my disposal, it still wasn't to their level of what they expected. And it all came back to bad audio from the beginning. Great audio from the beginning will give you a great result as a guest. So please, for the sake of every podcaster who's going to reach out to you and that you reach out to them, have a microphone. The microphone I'm using right now is like a $50 microphone that plugs directly into my computer. I don't need any special thing or anything. It just plugs right in. And I'll have a link for it in the show notes if you're interested. And it's my mic of choice. 2,000 episodes, never failed me. Works really great. It's very portable. And you need a mic. So please buy a microphone and know how to use it. That's super important. Have headphones, not Bluetooth headphones, because there might be a slight delay as you hear the voices and before it translates through Bluetooth to your ears. And in that delay, it's going to cause so many headaches for you as a guest because you're going to be totally out of sync with your host. Wired headphones, simple. $15 headphones with a wire that plugs directly into your laptop or into your desktop computer work like a charm. You can get earbuds that are wired, and you can hide them if you don't want to have big ear muff type headphones on your head. It's going to mess up your hair. Get wired earbuds. You can hide them and still plug them in and have great sound. You can hear what's going on. The reason why we want headphones is we don't want the sound of the mic of the host, their voice coming out of your computer speakers or your laptop speakers, then being picked up by the microphone on your end, and then fed back into the audio, which causes echo, all kinds of problems. Wired headphones and a microphone. Very, very important. Your webcam is probably fine with the computer that you have. You can use an upgraded webcam. I'll have a link for the one that I'm using right now. It's great. Again, plugs directly into my computer. One connection and I'm done. So headphones, a microphone, and if you're doing video, as a video release, you want to look good. So make sure you have nice lighting, sit by a window. If you need lights, then buy lights, but have some kind of a lit environment and have a nice camera to pick up all that information. Have your tech in place as a guest. Before the interview, what about for the host? Share your expectations with your guests. Send your guests a guide, a format, understand timing, and you can even do a pre-interview. That's what I prefer. I always have a pre-interview with my guests, and then we get together in the future for the recording. Gives me more time to prepare. I've built a relationship with my guests. For me, the way I do my show, it works. Some hosts are going to do this. Some hosts will have you come early, and you'll talk for 10, 15 minutes, and then they'll hit record. That's great too. It honors your calendar. I find having a pre-interview works really well for better conversations, deeper connections, and your audience is going to thank you for it. Share your expectation as a host with your guest. Research your guest. When they come on your screen, it should not be your first interaction with them and you hit record. You should know about their website. You should hear them on other shows. You should check out their book, read all the reviews. You should know the topic of the conversation before your guest appears on your screen. Super important for you to research your guest. Go beyond the bio. Check out their recent work. Check out what they do on social media. And look for unique angles that you can bring into the conversation. And then for the host, promote collaboration. Discuss topics in advance and invite your guests to suggest talking points that they're super interested in. I like to ask the question of my guests, is there anything, I notice that you're on other shows, is there anything that you haven't talked about that you would really like to talk about in more detail or you haven't had the opportunity to bring up on the other shows? I don't want this to be just another copy of what you've done elsewhere. So I'm open to go anywhere you want. Just let me know and we'll go in that direction. It gives your guests buy-in to the conversation and they can help direct the content as well. What do we do during the interview? How do we create connection and value? What do we do as we actually record the interview? During the interview for the guests listening, be authentic. Share real stories. Yes, we want to hear the 5 points that you brought up in your book. Yes, we want to know about your coaching course. Yes, we want to know all about you and your life story. But there needs to be real stories, actionable advice, and personal insights that tie the content and make it relatable to the listener. One of the things I encourage all of my guests when they come on the show, I'm so thrilled that they're interested in being a guest on my podcast, but my guest is not the most important person. I'm not the most important person as the host. The most important person in this whole podcast conversation is the listener, and they're not even here when we're recording the episode. So make sure that you address the listener. You don't talk past them. You don't talk over them or under them. You talk to them. And make sure you have opportunities in the conversation where both the host and the guest turn their attention in the conversation directly to the listener and address them as if they're in the room. In that moment, your audience is going to lean in because you're talking to me. If you want a great example of that, listen to the Mel Robbins podcast. She will pause her guest, speak to the listener, and come back to the guest. It is a work of beauty, and I love how she incorporates the listener into every episode. Listener-centric, listener-focused. The listener is the most important person in this conversation. And if you're only here to sell something, it's not going to connect, and you're not going to get the results that you're looking for as a guest, as a host, if you ignore the listener. So make sure that you focus on the listener. As well, engage with the host. Listen actively, guests, when you're on the show. Listen, respond thoughtfully. Don't worry about a pause as you formulate an answer. We can always take out big chunks of silence. Super easy to do. When you start filling in the silence as you're contemplating your answer with ums and ahs and you knows and everybody knows and that's interesting and I find that don't. Just be quiet, think about your answer and come in. Your host is going to have an easy time as an editor to remove gaps and silence than it is to take out words that are called filler words. Just think about your answer, listen carefully, respond thoughtfully, and build on the host's questions. Don't be afraid to ask the host a question as well. That's engagement. That's conversation. And that's what we're looking for. Also, we talk about having a call to action. I prefer the term pathway to engagement. But at the end of the conversation, we're going to send people somewhere. To a website, again, one link, not 17. We're going to send the listener to one place. But there needs to be a reason for them to go there. Beyond connecting with you, which is great, but do you have a download? Do you have a list of things that are like the top things? Do you have a chapter from your book? Do you have something of value to somebody who comes to your website? Think about that. Plan that out before you get on podcast so that you have something valuable to somebody who comes to you. What is it? Time with you in your calendar, a free download, a version of your song that's unreleased to anyone else that you can send. Again, a chapter of your book, whatever that is, a downloadable PDF, something. Have a reason to go there beyond me just coming to you. Make sure there's value in your call to action, as I call it, pathway to engagement. Clearly state how listeners can connect with you and benefit. The value needs to be to the listener and the viewer over you as the guest. Value in your call to action, pathway to engagement for the listener. During the interview for the hosts, what are some things that we can do to create connection and value? Have a guide to the conversation. Keep the discussion focused and engaging, and allow the guest to shine. You need to guide the conversation through the whole thing. You're the bus driver. You're the one in control of where we're going next. Your guest is here to serve you and the audience. Don't let the guest drive. It's your show. You know your audience, and your audience is coming for you. Every time you release an episode, you're in the driver's seat. And for the host as well, highlight value. Draw out stories or advice that will resonate with your audience. I have had my guests repeat a quote or repeat a memorable moment because I didn't want it to go past my audience. I'm like, wait a minute. Say that again. No, do it again. Say that line again. Tell me that quote again. Tell me about that book again. Because I want it to resonate with who's listening to my show so that they catch it and it sinks in. Highlight value as it comes out in the conversation. Draw attention to it and focus your audience on what that means to them. Great. And record quality. Monitor your audio. Monitor the video. Make sure you're hitting record before you start your interview. As the host, you're responsible for running the tech side of your show. If you have a team that does this for you, awesome. Then make sure they know what they're doing. But if you're a solo podcaster and you're in charge of getting the guest, recording the guest, and doing all the work, always be watching your screen, watching your levels, watching for the record light to be on. However your system works, make sure you know your tools. You do not want to be experimenting in front of your guest. It's not going to work. So for hosts, that's your job. And that's how you bring connection and value during the interview. But what about after the interview? The interview is done. We're all done here. We're moving on. What do we do after the interview so that we can amplify the impact of this conversation and all of the time invested to make this happen between the host, the guest, and everything we've done to get here? How do we amplify the impact of this conversation into the future? Hey, Dave, just jumping in here. I want to do a little shout out to PodMatch again. I want to encourage you as a podcaster, if you have an interview-based show, you should be on PodMatch. Simple thing, you can pay a small monthly fee and people can see your show. Instead of spending money elsewhere, spend it where people are looking for podcasts. PodMatches.com is great as a host of a podcast to have your show on there. Again, interview-based show, you should be on PodMatch. Definitely encourage you to do that. If you're looking for guests, PodMatch is great. If you want to be a guest, PodMatch is great. And it is going to help you to find the right show. There's so many tools built into the PodMatch platform for you as a podcaster. It'll help you create a one sheet. It'll help you to come up with the images that you want to share for you as a guest on other people's show. There's just so many things. And you can rate and review your guests and the hosts of podcasts that you've been a guest on. So here's Alex. He came on the How to Podcast series, episode 310, and it was great to have him on the show. I'd love to have him back in the future. But here's Alex talking a little bit more about PodMatch. I would encourage you to go sign up. Link in the show notes for you to sign up for PodMatch. And it's part of this mini-series that we're doing around guesting and hosting interviews. And PodMatch is just a natural connection. But here's a little bit more from Alex about PodMatch. And I encourage you to go check out PodMatch.com.
And so we had this idea for what is now PodMatch. And simply put, it's a service that works very similar to a dating app, like connecting people for dates, right? But instead of connecting for dates, it connects people for podcast interviews. So if you're a guest that, like in this case, talks about podcasting, which is a little bit meta, but it would connect me with Dave saying, hey, the How to Podcast series that Dave hosts is probably a good fit for you because you are a podcaster who talks about podcasts. But that's the whole idea behind what we decided to build. And then just everything in between that's administrative, could we remove the friction that's involved to simplify the process? And the whole heart behind that is that we know that what really matters in podcasting is impacting the lives of listeners.
Link in the show notes. If you want to use our affiliate code and support the show, then great. Let's get back to the conversation. For the guests, here's how you can amplify the impact of your guest appearance on a podcast. First, promote the episode. Tell people about it. Share the episode link on your website, your newsletter, your Substack, and to all of the social channels where you live and are most active. And wherever you can, tag the host and the podcast that you were a guest on. By simply you talking about it, you can even just grab your phone after the interview and go, oh my gosh, I was on the something something podcast today, and the host, she was amazing. Her questions were awesome. We got into some stuff that I've never talked about before. There's a link here in my notes. Go check it out. I'm sure you would love to hear my interview on the Something 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 podcast. Thank you for having me as a guest. Everyone go check out the episode. By simply doing that, you're going to benefit because people are going to come out of curiosity. Your community loves you. And for you to be featured on a podcast, they're going to want to come see it. I like to play it up and go, if you want to see Dave on his best behavior, I was on the Something 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 podcast, and I didn't even do anything terribly wrong. It was a fun conversation, and I was on my best behavior for 35 minutes. So if you want proof that I can behave, go check out the Something 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 podcast. I make fun of it. I'll make it so that it's interesting. And my audience, my community will go check it out. So share and promote the episode as a guest. And again, another thing is to engage with the listeners. Respond to comments. Here's a little gem for you as a podcast guest. When your podcaster releases the episode on YouTube. Many of your podcast hosts will do this. I do this. And my encouragement to my guests is to jump into the comment section on YouTube for your episode. Why am I asking you to do this? Because the people that are there leaving comments about you on my show are talking about you. They're mentioning you and the conversation, the book, the coaching program, the whatever. They're talking about you. And here you come into the comments, the person interviewed on my show, and you start commenting. Guess what happens? You don't even need me as the host of the show. Now my community or people that have found that episode can now speak directly to you. You don't need me to facilitate conversation. Your people listening to you on my show and talking about you can now talk to you directly within the comments. What a great way for you to continue the conversation after the episode goes live. So engage with the listeners. That's my big suggestion for you as a guest. That's your responsibility. Those are your people. And if you want great results, you need to engage in conversation, answer questions, and also thank the host publicly. You can repurpose the content as well. Turn your interview into blog posts, social media clips, or even a resource page on your website. I also love on Spotify, on YouTube, create a playlist where you have been a guest on, let's say, 10 other podcasts. Have all 10 podcasts in a playable playlist within Spotify and YouTube so that it's easy to share, and you simply add the next podcast to the playlist, one link, and all of your episodes where you've been a guest on multiple different shows. You can share that out in your audience, put it in your email signature, put a sticker on your Instagram stories, put it on your website, but have one clickable place to send your community to see you everywhere. It's a great way for you to gain that long-term results from your episode and your time on my podcast simply by creating a playlist, and then jump into the comments and talk to the people who are talking about you. That's a great way for you to get results. And then, as well, I would say to all the guests, track your results. Monitor your website traffic. Monitor your social engagement. And any new connections resulting from the appearance, ask people. When somebody shows up in your inbox after an interview, ask them, how did you find me? Oh, you were on Dave's How to Podcast. You were on Dave's Living the Next Chapter. You were on Dave's Dad Space podcast. And you will see the results. I always ask people who come into my world, how did you find me? And as a guest on podcasts, that should be one of your go-to questions. When you see new traffic coming in through email, subscriptions, Substack, you're seeing new people coming in, and you know you just did 5 interviews, ask the question, how did you find me? How did we make this happen? You'll get great feedback and great results simply by asking the question. That's a great way for you to track the results. Do that as a guest. For the host, what do we do after the interview to amplify impact? Provide shareable assets to your guest. Send them video clips, send them artwork for YouTube, formatted for YouTube, and thumbnails and all of that. And I would really suggest for you to consider to use the colors and the feel of what your guest does. So if your guest is all paisley colors and light and airy, don't send them something harsh, dark, and black. It doesn't match the theme of what they post, and they're less likely to use that. Tailor, if you have the opportunity to do this, tailor the artwork to what your guest does, and you're probably more likely to share it because it matches with the aesthetic of their Instagram or wherever they are, their website. It'll feel more natural and organic for them. Nice little tip. Tag them and thank them. Same thing I said to the guests, same thing for the host. Grab your phone. The interview's over. Jump on your phone, hit record, face to camera. Hey, I just had Dave Campbell on my podcast. He hosts 9 different shows. The guy's crazy. And he came on my show. We talked about podcasting. It was a really great interview. It's coming out next week. We'd love for you to check it out. Dave's link's in the notes below. Go check him out and go tell him I told you to stop by. How long did that take? I didn't need a team. I didn't need Canva. I didn't need any of that. I just grabbed my phone and looked at the camera and set it. Hit post. I'm done. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be all fancy. It's just you showing up and being social on social media. That's it. That's all it takes. Tag them and thank them. Encourage the listener to act. Remind your audience to connect with the guest and share their feedback. Ask your audience to send your guest an email. Ask your audience to follow the person that you have on your show. Invite your audience to act. Invite your audience to support. Be in community with. Buy the book. Sign up for the newsletter. Join their Substack. Be an advocate for your guest to your audience. Your audience loves you, and they will do the things you ask them to do because you're giving great value. Encourage your listeners to act. And then for the host, just like the guest is going to track results, you as the host need to analyze performance, review your download numbers, check out the listener feedback, watch the comments on YouTube and Spotify and such, and make sure that you're monitoring the engagement to refine your process. Maybe this guest might be an awesome guest to have back in the future. One time might not be enough for this guest. If you're getting great results, lean into that. What do we do to leverage for long-term growth as a podcast guest and a podcast host? It's really important stuff. Let's look at the long-term focus of being a guest and hosting a guest on our show. For the guests, build relationships. Stay in touch with your host and fellow guests and be open to future collaborations. Be in their world. I've had so many guests, amazing people, come into my world. We have one interaction and I never hear from them again. These are great people. We've had a great conversation. We've built a bridge. It's sad when that bridge is never used again. We do a lot of work to get a podcast from beginning to posted. And I love when a guest reaches out, stays in my world. Also for me as well as the host, I need to stay in their world. But that relationship is something I want to nurture and I want to maintain into the future. Showcase your appearances. Add podcast interviews to your media kit, your website, and your LinkedIn profile. Talk about the places you've been, even if it's been a while. Bring it up again. This is great content. This is evergreen conversation. There's still value. Years later, you can still talk about your past guesting experiences and share them as new content. If you're ever having gaps in your content, you're like, I don't know what to talk about. Talk about where you've been. And gather testimonials. Ask the host for a testimonial or an endorsement after a great interview on PodMatch, which we're talking about here in this show. And in the last couple episodes, you can rate your host and your host can rate you. And that becomes a great place for reviews. Go into your reviews. It's part of the whole process on PodMatch, and grab all of your reviews and post them to your website. It's a great way for people to get actual reviews and show proof that you're a great guest, you show up with great value, great content, and you build community. Post those reviews to your website. They're there. Use them. It's a great thing to have in place. Gather those testimonials. For the hosts, how do we leverage long-term growth? Create a great community around your podcast and invite your past guests to join your group, to be a part of your newsletter or go live with you on Instagram or jump into your Substack or whatever. Do a live YouTube video with them. Invite your guest to be a part of your community. Cross-promote with your guest. Feature your guest on future episodes. Remind your listeners of past guests and the value you had. Do a montage of different episodes around one theme. Father's Day is coming up this weekend as I'm recording. Grab all your fathers that have been on your show, who have written books, put them into an episode as like a best of, put it out there. If you're ever stuck for that kind of content, summarize past episodes because your new listeners know nothing about your past. So reinvent your past by making sure you talk about it again. And then for your host. Solicit referrals. Encourage your guests to recommend other people that they know. High quality guests. Great interviews that could be for you as a host. Ask your guests to promote you to their friends, to the other authors they know, to the other Hollywood stars that they know, to the other musicians they know, to the other coaches that they know. Simply by you asking this, puts you front and center in their mind, and they're going to tell 2 friends, and so on. Podcast guesting is a powerful tool for growth, connection, and influence. Approach your podcast guesting with intention and strategy. Prepare thoroughly and engage authentically. Promote proactively, both for the hosts and the guests. And in doing this, you can turn every interview into a launch pad for greater opportunities, community building, and connection. If this is your first time listening to the How to Podcast series, I'm here to help podcasters. I'm here to help guests to be a better guest, to be a better host, and to have better community connection with listeners. That's the focus of the show. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for pressing play. Again, go back to the last 2 episodes previous to this one. You're going to get an episode for guests on how to be a better guest and how to get more impact as a guest on podcasts. You don't have a show, maybe, but you want to be a guest. Go back there. Check it out. The second episode, the one just previous to this one, is focused on hosts, in that we want you to be the best host possible to your guests. Honor their time, honor what they're there for, and bring value to them and to your audience. And then this one is more what happens for both of us as hosts and guests after the interview goes live. My hope for you as a podcast guest and a podcast host, that every interaction brings you value, and every time someone presses play, they walk away as a listener going, that was a great investment in my time, for my time. I learned something. I gained new insight. I gained companionship and connection with the host and the guest. Why? Because they included me in the conversation. If you have any questions about being a guest, if you have any questions about being the host of a podcast with guests on your show, I would love for you to reach out to me, howtopodcast.ca, and give me some feedback on the value you've had over the last 3 episodes. And if this is something that's going to work for you, if I've missed anything, I'd love to hear from you. And if there's any way I can support you, howtopodcast.ca. Thanks for being here. Congratulations in advance on your next interview as a guest and as a host. And I'm cheering for you, and I'd love to hear what you're doing next at howtopodcast.ca. My name is Dave. Thanks for being here. Hey, thanks for being here. Thanks for being part of the show. We offer lots of support for people who want to be guests on podcasts, people who want to be a host and interview guests on your show. And you're like, I just need to sit and talk with Dave for a little bit and figure out my course of action, how I'm going to get started, how I'm going to continue, how to find better guests, how to ask better questions. I've got so many things I'd love to talk about. Go to howtopodcast.ca. You'll find my link right there. On my website, there's a calendar link. You can come on my calendar anytime and as often as you wish. It's there. It's free. I'm not going to sell you anything, and we'll get together, have a virtual coffee, talk about whatever podcasting question you have. It's my gift to you, and I'm happy to do this. I love meeting podcasters. I love talking through and kind of coming up with some creative ways to get around some of the obstacles that you might be facing in your podcast. So if that's you and you're like, Dave, I just need some time. Can we just get together? Yeah, anytime. Howtopodcast.ca. I'd love to meet you there. Grab a spot in the calendar. Send me a speak pipe. Send me an email. Whatever you got, I'd love to meet with you at howtopodcast.ca. If you want to be a guest on this show, I'm always looking for guests to come on and talk about your podcast journey. Even if you're just starting, don't even have an episode yet. Come on, get on the show. Let's talk through, because there's somebody else out there who's at the exact same spot that you're at, and they'd love to hear an answer to the same questions that they have, the same questions that you have. We can do that here on the show. You've been podcasting for 20 plus years. I'd love to have you on. Your knowledge, your experience, your background, the stories. Oh, the stories you could tell. come on the show and share your journey as an old school podcaster. Come on. It's the How to Podcast series. We're here to support the podcasting community. Never podcast alone. Go to howtopodcast.ca. Thanks for being here. Take care.